everybody, Calm Biker here, in the garage again. It's been a couple of weeks since I did my last video now. That was the last video where I was thinking about how am I going to mount this thing to my helmet, and I was playing with Billy Putt. And in the comments on that video, some people mentioned about other types of epoxy adhesives, or epoxy putties I should say, including ones with metal in that could be potentially stronger. People also mentioned I didn't clean the parts properly before I started, which is a very good point. I should have certainly degreased them. And then I made a rather large mistake anyway of leaving the plastic film on this thing. So I was trying to stick a couple of mounts to this thing to see how well they would stick, how strong it would be, and I left a plastic film on because that's the back of a camera case, and the idea is you can see the screen through that when you're working with the camera, when you're pressing the buttons to see the menus and whatnot. And I think the film will probably have a fairly substantial effect potentially on the amount that it adheres, because as I'm pulling the two things apart, the film could potentially move, couldn't it? And indeed, when I looked at the cover afterwards, it had an air bubble behind where the mount had been stuck. So I suspect I've pulled that film off, and that's allowed it to ripple, lowered the adhesion, and that's potentially why it broke off at not as strong as I would have liked it to be. Although, to be fair, it was fairly strong. It was about 3¼ kilos of force that it took to pull that mount off. That was my other mistake. I clearly didn't do a very good job with the scales, because at the point where it became important to see the number, the scales had turned to a point where the camera wasn't picking it up, which really doesn't help. And it's not easy to just put it back and try again when the mount that you were doing it with has flicked off across the garage. That took a bit of finding. So anyway, I thought I would do the experiment again, using this stuff again, the Milli Putt, and I've also got New Concept Metal, which is another epoxy repair putty, one that I actually had in the garage. I can't remember why I bought it, but it's an epoxy putty. It's a two-part, although it does feel like there's only one stick in there, so I guess you cut a piece off and kind of squidge it up to mix two parts together. It's also in a sealed bag, which makes me wonder if it'll go off if I leave it too long. So if this works, I might have to get it on the helmet quickly. But I thought I'd go through that again, do a better experiment, hopefully this time hopefully not make any silly mistakes. I've got all my bits and pieces ready. Let's start by degreasing and cleaning these few parts. This is just a bit of brake cleaner. If it can degrease brakes, I'm sure it can degrease a little screen. There are a few marks on that screen, but that's, I think, a little bit of damage from when I was pulling around on it with the with that film there. That's the old mount that I used for the last experiment. It took quite a bit of effort actually to get the Milli Putt off that. It came off the screen easily enough. Wasn't quite so easy to get it off the mount. That's those degreased. What I plan to do is put one mount on one side, one mount on the other, and then I hope, with the scales involved in the mix, I'm going to pull the two apart, and then we've got two measures. One is how much strength it actually takes on the scales, and then the other is which one separates first, because that one should be the least strong. I mean, technically for science I should repeat this many times, but I've only got that much, so we'll just do it the once, I think. Right, I shall start mixing. It's the milliput mixed. So we'll take a mount, take a piece of the milliput, so about the size of a pea. I might use 2 peas. I will use 2 peas. They give it a good chance of sticking. So about the size of 2 peas. And I'm just going to make it into a sausage. And give it a ring of milliput. Slightly longer sausage required. Reminds me of Baldrick's slug in Blackadder Goes Forth. So there you go. 1 Baldrick slug. And make sure I can get the hook in there. We'll put it on there at the end. Bit of force to stick it down. Hopefully got a good seal on the back there. And that's going to be the first one. I shall put an M near that so that I can remember that that's the milliput. M for milliput. Okay then, on with the next one. New concept metal epoxy putty repair. This came in this little bag just like this with no instructions whatsoever. So there's quite a bit of guesswork going on. But you know, let's see how we get on. Opening that up, I found there's 2 lumps. As I thought it might be, you can see there's the two parts of it are actually kind of wrapped together in there. I don't need anything like that much. I'm not repairing a house or anything, so I shall just cut a small piece off the end and start mixing. And I shall put that piece away and hope it doesn't dry up on me. You can see the 2 parts a lot clearer there. That was just a piece of wrapping. Looks like a licorice oil sort or something. I thought with this I might be able to see metal in it, but there might be a sparkle, or that just might be a sheen. Very hard to tell. Right, well, I've been mixing that for quite some time now. Doing the same as the milliput, really just mix it, fold it, squeeze it, pull it off the gloves. If anyone does know how this stuff's supposed to be used and it's any different to that, please let me know. So again, I'm going to get about the same amount. So I started with a pea-sized bit on the milliput. It's a bit stickier on the gloves, this one. Actually, I've got about the right amount, I think. So what I'll do, I'll roll out a slightly greyer, slightly more shiny Baldrick slug. Wrap that around the other mount. Similar amount, isn't it? And then we'll pop that on the other side. Try and not make the 2 touch. So there you go. So there we have it. 2 things hopefully going off. I have no idea how long that new concept stuff takes to dry and completely harden. So I'm going to leave that at least 24 hours. And then I'll finish off this video. See you in a bit. Well, it's day 2 of experiment 2 and it's a lot colder, hence the hat. But I've given it, well, actually about 36 hours to cure. And I've now got 2 mounts stuck to a piece of plastic, no film. I've got my scales again and I've been trying to work out how I'm going to connect this thing up. So I'm thinking a little bit of this string through one of these holes, scales on the other, pull the 2 apart and see what happens. If I remember from last time, it was actually easier to see that with the light off. So I'm going to leave the light off this time. And I shall try and keep it, I say I'll leave it with the light off. It seems desperate to turn the light on. Okay, I cannot get it to keep the light off. So it broke. Which one broke? The M is there. So the metal one broke and the milliput stayed intact. So milliput seems to be stronger than this new concept epoxy putty. Interesting. I didn't see when it broke. Hopefully the camera will have picked it up this time. But let's try this one. See what point this breaks. Whew, that's pretty strong. It's actually hard to hold onto the plastic. I'll try it straight against the plastic this time. Give it more chance of breaking. Well, you probably could tell that took a lot of effort to break. Hopefully we'll be able to see the numbers on the video, and if we can't, I'll pop them on the screen. I think milliput is the answer. So the next job will be to mount the mount that I'm going to use, which isn't one of those two, one of which is somewhere in the garage, but mount them on the helmet. And then hopefully I can get vlogging with it. Anyway, thanks for watching everyone. Ride safe, and I'll talk to you all again soon.